Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans Info Tap. I'm glad you made it. We have been talking about the budget shortfall, Congress back in action, working on some sort of legislation to fund the VA for two things. Remember, there's kind of two different buckets that we're working with. One is the $2.9 billion. There's currently some legislation kicking around for $3 billion to cover that for this fiscal year, which absolutely impacts benefits. The other is another $12 billion for next fiscal year. We can't forget about that. Now, here's the thing. We, as a veteran sphere, is what I call it, I guess, veteran sphere, and that includes spouses, survivors, dependents, all that stuff. If we want action, now look, I'm going to throw it out there. I get it. Congress will fund the VA. But what we need to do is, in times like this, we need to raise our voices and let the congressional members know that we are paying attention. That is as important as anything. Just a gentle reminder that we're watching you and we know what's going on. That speaks volumes. So imagine for a moment if there were 1,000 veterans in a congressional district that all picked up the phone, stopped by, sent an email, whatever it is, to their district office, and said, hey, look, I know the VA's short, but guess what? Sure, it needs to get fixed, something quirky going on, and that needs to be addressed. But funding needs to be number one. Veterans cannot suffer because the VA's mismanagement, period. What are you going to do, congressional member so-and-so, right? So very just a pointed thing, right? Now, that 1,000 people is a lot of people in a congressional district actually reaching out to a congressional member's office. Imagine if the spouses did the same. Imagine if dependent children at the same, or who are of voting age did that, right? Now that number's growing and growing, right? Yes, they're going to fund the VA. That's not going to not happen, right? But this is an opportunity to show them that we're paying attention. So with that, I found an article. I want to share this with you. If you support this, the call to action is reach out. I mean, it's easy. You send an email, you stop by, speak to a staffer. They don't bite. You can call after hours if you don't want to talk to anybody and just leave a voicemail or whatever. So with that, hit the thumbs up, subscribe, share with a friend, all that good stuff. I really appreciate it. Also wanted to throw out a very, very special thank you to Bill Me. And I'm not sure if it's really Bill Me or if it's funny like Bill Me. But Bill, M-E-E, Bill Me, you rock. Thank you so much for that super thanks comment chatty thing that you did. I truly appreciate it. It really is wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for supporting the channel. I appreciate you. All right. So hopefully you got that. Hopefully I'll see a comment in there. So jumping into this, the headline, $12 billion more for VA medical budget urgently needed, the department says. Moving on, if Congress does not include extra funding for the Department of Veterans Affairs medical services in an upcoming stopgap spending bill, the department will struggle to keep up with the demand for care, the administration officials are warning. All right, well, let's move on through this article and see if we can uncover any nuggets here and see what we have to work with. So, on a conference call with reporters Monday, I'm assuming because this just came out on Monday, the 9th of September. I'm sharing it with you today, so I'm assuming that it was that Monday. So on a conference call with reporters Monday, VA officials confirmed that they are asking Congress to include an extra $12 billion for the department's medical budget in the upcoming stopgap spending measure, which must be passed into law by the end of the month to ensure that outreach to veterans and growth of the system can continue without compromising wait times and staffing levels. So, if you think staffing levels are horrible today, imagine $12 billion less. Moving on. We have been on an unprecedented outreach campaign to get more veterans into the system, Shereef Elnahal, the VA's Undersecretary for Health, said on the call. So if we have to be in a position to say, or let's read that again. So if we have to be in a position to say, well, we can't financially support the next set of veterans who can come into care, reduce their risk for suicide, get the highest quality of care available, then that would be a decision that we don't want to make. It's not without promise that we've made to the folks who wore the uniform and defended our freedom. So here's the thing, is when we think of the budget shortfall and we think of the VA, there are different components doing different things and different funding aspects. So this is for healthcare. Remember that the VA recently opened up the gates to, as they should, in my opinion, but be ready for it, to 1 million new veterans into the system without hitting different qualifiers as we had to before. So before, there's 7 different avenues or doorways into the VA healthcare system. Some of the most common doorways into the healthcare system would be, I'm service connected for some disabilities. Opens up the doorway for VA healthcare. I am low or no income. I meet the means testing and I can go get healthcare. Vietnam service, that type of stuff. There's Medal of Honor, can do it. I think Purple Heart can, and there's a few others. So the bottom line is that those requirements to get healthcare were removed and opened up the doorway for somewhere around 1 million additional veterans. So are they all going? No, but it did increase. Same thing with the PACT Act, allowing more ease in getting those presumptive conditions service connected. Some people, that might have been their first claim. Now they're service connected. Now they have a doorway into the healthcare system. So healthcare is feeling some strain, and they are behind the ball with this $12 billion. So let's move on here and see what else we can see. So with lawmakers returning to Washington, D.C. on Monday evening after the 5-week break, horrible timing, and just 3 weeks before the government runs out of funding, Congress is expected to pass a stopgap spending bill known as Continuing Resolution, or CR. So typically, a CR simply extends existing funding levels while preventing agencies from starting new programs. But lawmakers sometimes include what they call anomalies that will allow for some new funding for programs. For the upcoming CR, the White House has requested Congress include an anomaly that covers an expected $12 billion shortfall in the VA's medical budget next year. So again, remember, this has not been voted on. It's going to be there. So the White House has thrown it out there, meaning that the president would approve it. So that's kind of giving the Congress the green light to cover the $12 billion. Then Congress fights over how they want that $12 billion to look or whatever, and then they all agree on it, and then it goes and it gets signed off. So moving on, it says if the funding isn't included in a CR, VA may need to begin addressing any potential shortfall as early as the first quarter of fiscal 2025. The White House wrote in its request to Congress, a copy of which was published by Politico. With the government's fiscal year starting October 1st, the first quarter of the fiscal 2025 represents the last few months of the calendar year 2024. The request allows for the VA briefing Congress in July that it needed $12 billion more for its medical budget in fiscal 2025 than previously planned, while department officials have largely attributed the shortfall to record enrollment resulting from the sweeping toxic exposures known as the PACT Act. They have also blamed higher than expected staffing levels, pharmacy and prosthetic costs, and community care costs. The VA also told lawmakers it's facing a $3 billion shortfall in benefits funding, and that benefit payments due at the beginning of October could be delayed if Congress does not approve a fix by September 20th, Okay, lawmakers have been working to address the benefits funding shortfall in a separate standalone legislation, which is what I was talking about, right? They were split up. We're dealing with different things. That one, they're already working on legislation. Then we have the $12 billion that they're trying to fit in as well. Let's see. It moves on here on military.com, stating that Republicans have previously blamed the VA budget shortfalls on mismanagement. And I largely agree, especially on the benefits side. I think that actually on both. I mean, when you know that the door's open, you should be able to catch this a little sooner. But in any case, let's move on. The Biden-Harris administration has embarrassed themselves with how poorly they've mismanaged and run VA's budget into the ground, resulting in a $15 billion shortfall, House Veterans Affairs Committee Chairman Mike Bost said in a statement Friday about a bill to address the benefits funding shortfall. A draft CR released by the House Republicans on Friday does not include the requested $12 billion for the medical budget shortfall. The measure, which would extend government funding through March 28th, does include language that allows the department to use available funding to maintain current program operations, including inpatient and outpatient care and treatment to beneficiaries of the Department of Veterans Affairs. But House Democrats likened that language to the GOP's essentially saying, spend $0 as fast as you'd like. This would be laughable if not for the veterans that are faced with the serious illnesses and simply need their medical care. House Appropriations Committee Democrats said, so Democrats in the House Appropriations Committee said in a fact sheet released Monday. Look, everything right now is going to have a lot of political fever or fervor or whatever you want to say around it. So it is what it is. Moving on, military.com, the House Republican CR is unlikely to become law as it is, since it also includes a measure staunchly opposed by Democrats that would require proof of citizenship to vote. All right. So I'll just read it again and we'll just move on. So the House Republican CR is unlikely to become law as is, since it also includes a measure staunchly opposed by Democrats that would require proof of citizenship in order to vote. Republicans maintain the measure would safeguard against undocumented immigrants voting, something that is already illegal and shows little evidence of being an issue, while Democrats argue it adds a hurdle that could disenfranchise eligible voters. But the CR represents the GOP's opening position and talks over the final product. So, like everything, more political, posturing and, calling people out and all of that. I get it. I'm trying to stay about the veteran stuff. So, moving on. The White House issued a statement on Monday threatening to veto the bill, which, again, would be probably over the same topic, being a citizen to vote. So, in its own fact sheet, the White House also argued that the House Republican CR would force the VA to undertake reductions in overall staffing levels that may impact access to care for veterans across clinical programs. Veteran experience may be impacted across many different functional areas, including medical care, scheduling, and coordination, connecting homeless veterans to permanent housing, caregiver support, and other programs. The White House said VA may need to scale back outreach efforts to veterans, which VA has been conducting at unprecedented levels to inform veterans of new benefits and healthcare enrollment opportunities under the Bipartisan PACT Act. I don't know. I mean, sure. All right, moving on. Elnahal acknowledged that there will be other opportunities for Congress to address the VA's budget shortfall, since lawmakers will still need to negotiate a comprehensive government funding package for 2025 after the CR. But he maintained that the earlier the department gets the funding, the better. The earlier we get the funding, the less of a chance that we have to consider some of the things that the White House has mentioned in their fact sheet, Elnahal said. So, we do think it is very necessary to get this supplemental in. And we think it is necessary to get it in for this CR because the earlier we get it, the better decisions we'll be able to make and the more likely to be able to maintain and improve upon these excellent outcomes. So that's how that ends. I'd love to get your thoughts on it. The bottom line is, in my opinion, there's a couple different things. One, funding. Got to do funding, get it done with, get it funded. Fixes. There needs to be some fixes so this doesn't happen again. That needs to also happen. Do they need to happen simultaneously? I don't know. So with that, thanks so much for watching. I appreciate you. Have a great one. And remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.